Welcome to the walking tour of downtown Newark. This tour involves about half an hour of active walking time, ending at the Newark Museum. It has 8 stopping points along the way, each dedicated to a unique aspect of Newark history and culture. Of course, you can go at your own pace and pause or skip the video to suit your interest. Here's the path and the featured spots along the route. We'll keep showing updated versions as you progress so you can gauge your progress. Let's get started. Newark, New Jersey was founded over 350 years ago. Its contributions to our nation's growth span business and industry to culture and the arts. It will be impossible to touch every aspect in a short walk of the downtown district, but by the time we're done, I'm sure that you will gain a new appreciation of Newark's past and share our optimism for its exciting future. The tour begins in the lobby of the Hotel Indigo, a building that began its life as the third Newark home of the National State Bank. It was designed by Cass Gilbert in 1912 after he completed the famous Woolworth Building in Manhattan and was one of the first skyscrapers in New Jersey. We'll have more to say about the importance of Newark in shaping the banking and insurance industries when we pick up that story on our third stop. Newark was first settled in 1666 by 64 founders, a small group of Puritans who left the New Haven, Connecticut colony to escape increasing British interference in their religion. They were led by Captain Robert Treat, who established his homestead from the corner of Market and Broad Street, just 1 block north of where you're standing, to the church grounds just to our south, and 1 block east to what's now Mulberry Street. The other settlers filled in to define today's Broad, Mulberry, and Washington Streets. Their tiny settlement grew over the next century into the most influential city in New Jersey. Newark's residents spread across the countryside, founding communities as far away as Morristown, 30 miles to the west. They created a system of highways to connect the villages, and Newark grew as a crossroads for trade and crafts. As a young nation, Alexander Hamilton selected nearby Paterson as the hub for a new U.S. manufacturing economy based on turning southern cotton into milled goods. Newark became a manufacturing center for leather goods. Local Moses Combs transformed an artisan craft to a mass production business supplying the nation and created the country's first trade school a few blocks away on Market Street to ensure he had a qualified workforce. In time, many manufacturing trades grew around the core city, attracting a diverse population and growing the economy to the point where Newark was called the Birmingham of the U.S., in tribute to that city's role in England. Watch how the downtown view changed from the early 1700s to the late 1800s, and you'll get a sense of the growth of the city. Let's step outside now to the corner of Broad Street and Edison Place. Looking south down Broad Street, the next intersection you will see is the cross of William Street. The southwest corner was the location of Newark's City Hall from 1864 until construction of the current City Hall in 1906. It's notable because in 1870, Edmund J. DeSmed chose this patch of Broad Street for the first demonstration of asphalt street paving in America. Today, there are over 4 million miles of pavement in the United States. Looking back up the east side of Broad Street, just past the church, you can see the portico for the Newark terminal of the now-defunct Central Railway of New Jersey. We'll have a great deal more to say about New Jersey's role in building America's rail lines later. Several buildings to the south, where the Marriott now stands, there used to be a rooming house at 854 Broad Street, notable because it was home to young Thomas Edison in 1871. Let's learn a bit more about Edison's time in Newark. Turn to the right and walk down Edison Place towards Mulberry Street. Of course, this street wasn't always called Edison Place. When young Thomas arrived in Newark in 1869, it was called Mechanic Street, and this entire area is covered with Edison's footprints. Only 18 years old, he came north to room with a friend, Franklin Leonard Pope, who lived in nearby Elizabeth. It didn't take long to launch his inventive career, and soon he was manufacturing his stock ticker tape here in Newark. One of his factories was a few blocks in front of you, where Ward Street once ran, and he had others just across the tracks. He also had an annex right here at 27 Mechanic Street, now a parking lot on your left. And it was said that he developed his idea of an R&D center separated from the hustle and bustle of the factory at this location, and that was the prototype for Menlo Park and later on his West Orange R&D Center. He established a Harrison Lamp Works just across the Passaic that remained active as a GE factory for light bulbs, and later RCA vacuum tubes operating until 1976. When he married his first wife, he bought a house across town on Wright Street where he lived for 6 years. When he sold the patent rights for the ticker tape to Western Union, he used the proceeds to buy a farm in Menlo Park, and as they say, the rest is history. To our right is the Prudential Arena, affectionately known as the Rock. Completed in 2007, it was one of the early developments that signaled the rejuvenation of downtown Newark. It has disproven skeptics who doubted that an arena in city center could compete with the nearby Meadowlands complex with its proximity to major highways. The Rock is home to the NHL Jersey Devils and is a multi-purpose entertainment venue that has hosted everything from Disney on Ice to headliner concerts like The Boss, New Jersey's own Bruce Springsteen. It hosts high school sports championships and university commencements for most of the area's schools, including NJIT, Rutgers Newark, Seton Hall, and Montclair. If you haven't reached the corner of Edison and Mulberry, please do so, and take a pause on Championship Plaza. Looking east, you'll see the footprint of an exciting new development called Mulberry Commons, stretching from the arena to McCarter Highway and then across to Penn Station and over the tracks. It includes 2.5 acres of city park, situated on the old rail yards for the Central Railroad, whose terminal we pointed out on Broad Street. The building that you see in front of you is the Newark Warehouse Company building, also known as the Central Graphics Art Building. It dates to 1907 and has served many roles over the last century. It's now being renovated for mixed-use, office, retail, and commercial purposes. In December, Mars Wrigley Confectionery announced it will open its U.S. headquarters in 2 locations in New Jersey, one in Mars' existing offices in Hackettstown and another in this new development. The move will bring about 500 jobs to the city, marking its return to Newark, where it originated in 1941, with a factory to the north at 4th Avenue and 12th Street. If we turn left and walk across the plaza to Market Street, you'll see the Gateway Center complex, 4 connected buildings representing over 2 million square feet of office and retail space, with Skybridge connections to Newark Penn Station and the Gateway Hilton Hotel. Gateway 1 and 2 were completed by 1972. Gateway 3 and Gateway 4 were completed in 1985 and 1988. Its presence stimulated development of a complex of new high-rise office towers, including one Newark Center and the Seton Hall Law School, one Riverfront Center, the New Jersey Transit Headquarters, Horizon Blue Cross Headquarters, a new FBI headquarters, and most recently, the headquarters for Panasonic North America that moved from the Secaucus Meadowlands into a newly constructed $200 million 12-story building in July 2014. The Ironbound, so called because the region was defined by the railroad tracks that border it. The area was rural until the 1820s, when German and Irish immigrants came in, creating a much-needed workforce that allowed the city to become more industrialized. One of those new industries was created by John Wesley Hyatt. After the Civil War, billiards were immensely popular, but restrictions on ivory importation prompted a New York distributor to offer a $10,000 prize to anyone who could develop a synthetic substitute. Hyatt never reached that goal, but in the chase he developed celluloid, the earliest moldable plastic material, as well as the injection molding machine that remains a mainstay of the industry. His celluloid manufacturing company made knife handles, piano keys, and assorted novelties, and supplied tubes, sheets, rods, and blocks to other manufacturers who fabricated everything from trinkets to fittings for garments and saddlery. Later, in 1887, Newark inventor Reverend Hannibal Goodwin would develop a process for making flexible celluloid film and adhering photographic emulsions while working in the attic of his church's rectory on Broad Street, a building that is still here next to the Route 280 overpass. This would become the enabling technology for Edison's motion picture camera soon thereafter. As the industrial base of Newark grew, it attracted a wave of European immigrants who came in search of jobs. They found the semi-isolated east ward of Newark a perfect place to make a home away from home, fostering restaurants, bakeries, and markets that recalled their homelands. Portuguese immigrants began to join the ironbound population in the 1960s, and so quickly populated the area that it is known now as Little Portugal. The Ironbound is now home to roughly 200 restaurants, wonderful street festivals, and the place to be during the World Cup. We are at the intersection of Market and Broad Street, called the Four Corners, the crossroads of Newark throughout history and once considered the busiest intersection in the United States. After crossing Broad Street, turn right and go uptown, heading for the Prudential Building Plaza. As you cross the street and turn uptown, look west to the right of the Halsey Street intersection. That building was originally Bamberger's department store, and we'll have more to say about Newark as a major shopping center later in the tour. The building now stands as an example of many of Newark's repurposing of old buildings for modern use. Thanks to its heritage as a New Jersey Bell headquarters, Newark sits on miles of fiber optic cabling that form a superhighway for data connectivity. In 1996, the government deregulated the data storage industry, and the building became one of the earliest telecom carrier hotels with over 60 networks in the building. Out of view and to the left is another important redevelopment project. Teachers Village turned parking lots into a $150 million residential and shopping complex with a unique twist. It has 204 residential units, and 70% of the rooms are specifically reserved for teachers, with rents discounted 10 to 15% below market rates.